Fluent Flow podcast. New videos every day. Let's learn English together.
Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we, take a whole stack of interesting sources and really dig in to pull out the most useful, maybe even surprising bits of knowledge just for you. Today, we're diving into something I think everyone can relate to. Something that touches all of us, really. Stress.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost a universal experience these days, isn't it?
It really is. You know that feeling, like a constant low hum of anxiety, or maybe your to-do list just feels endless, or just feeling, constantly rushed, overwhelmed, tired.
That feeling of being perpetually on.
Exactly. If any of that sounds familiar to you listening, well, you're definitely not alone. It seems to be just baked into modern life.
It does. And it's quite fascinating, actually, how we've almost normalized this state of constant heightened alert. We're just hit with so much information, juggling responsibilities. It often feels like we're just reacting all the time.
Right. Just bouncing from one thing to the next.
And understanding that condition, what's really going on underneath, is so important before we can actually, effectively manage it.
That's spot on. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to cut through all the noise, all the advice out there, and get right down to how we can feel calmer, more relaxed, more in control day to day. And we're going to do that by looking at some really simple, but actually quite powerful daily habits. We've gathered some fantastic sources, all focused on practical, actionable things you can do to genuinely reduce stress.
Yes. And what I find really compelling about these sources is that they focus on really fundamental, accessible practices. We're not talking about, complicated theories or having to completely overhaul your life tomorrow. Often it's the simplest actions, the ones we might even overlook, that can have the most profound effect on our internal state.
The easy wins, maybe?
Sort of, yeah. They're like the basic building blocks for regulating our emotions, for building resilience. Tools that are pretty much always available to us.
I love that. Accessible tools. Okay. So the plan for today is, first, we'll try to nail down what stress actually is. Like beyond just the feeling. How does it affect our bodies? Then we'll really get into the weeds with 8 specific habits. Habits that the sources say are really effective. And finally, we'll talk about how to actually start integrating these. Because knowing what to do is one thing, right?
Right. Knowing how to start, and maybe more importantly, how to keep it going.
Yeah.
That's often the trickier part.
Exactly. Okay, let's really unpack this. So let's kick off with that big question. What exactly is stress? We throw the word around all the time, I'm stressed, this is stressful, but what does it actually mean? Our source material gives a really neat, concise definition. It says, stress is basically how your body reacts when you feel pressure or worry.
That's a great starting point. It highlights that it's a reaction. It's about how your body specifically responds when you encounter something you perceive as demanding or threatening.
So it's not just the external thing, the deadline or the argument, it's our internal response to it.
Precisely. It's that internal physiological and psychological shift. And this is where it gets quite interesting, because the sources point out something crucial. Sometimes a little bit of stress can actually be helpful.
Helpful? How so? I think most people just think of stress as bad.
Well, yeah, that's the common view. But think about it. A certain amount of pressure can give you a burst of energy, can sharpen your focus, maybe even motivate you. This is sometimes called eustress, the good kind of stress.
Eustress. Okay, I've heard that term. So give us an example. When might this good stress actually, work for us?
Okay, well, imagine you've got a big presentation coming up. That bit of nervousness, that pressure to do well. It might actually push you to prepare more thoroughly, right? To rehearse, to really focus.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. It makes you step up your game a bit.
Exactly. Or think about a tight deadline at work. That sense of urgency can sometimes give you this incredible focus and energy to just get it done. It's that short burst of adrenaline that can help you perform under pressure. It's a signal that something important needs your attention.
Right. So it's like our body's way of saying, okay, pay attention, this matters. A little kickstart.
Kinda, yeah. It's like a tool that helps us rise to a challenge in the short term.
But then there's the flip side, the stress that just grinds you down. Our sources make that very clear too. They say too much stress every day can make you feel tired, sad, or even sick. That sounds like the chronic stuff, the kind that just hangs around.
Yes, and that's the critical difference when we talk about the bigger picture. It really is all about balance. That short burst of pressure, eustress, can be beneficial, but the sustained, everyday, chronic stress, That's where the problems start. That becomes a really heavy burden physically and mentally.
How so? What does that chronic stress actually do to us?
Well, think about that fight or flight response. If your body is constantly in that state, even at a low level, it's draining your resources. It can mess with your immune system, disrupt your sleep, affect digestion, lead to that constant fatigue, irritability.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just in our heads, it's really affecting our physical health too.
Absolutely. It can contribute to anxiety, depression, all sorts of issues when it goes on long term. Which leads us right back to that key question you mentioned earlier. How do we shift? How do we move from feeling constantly swamped to finding more calm, more resilience in our lives?
And that really is the heart of our deep dive today, isn't it? Our goal is to explore these simple, practical habits that can actively reduce that stress response, not just mentally, but physically in your body. Because stress is a whole body thing.
It is.
And the good news is there are things we can actually do about it, tangible things. All right, let's get into the practical stuff then. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. We've talked about what stress is, the good and the bad. Now let's dive into these 8 specific habits. Things anyone can try, things that are pretty accessible.
Exactly. And like we said, they might seem simple on the surface, but they work on some really fundamental levels. These aren't just quick fixes for a bad moment. They're tools for self-regulation, for building a more balanced state overall.
Okay, habit number 1. And it's about something we do constantly, usually without thinking. Deep breathing. The source says, when you feel nervous, stop and breathe. Breathe slowly. And it even gives a specific technique. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out through your mouth for 6 seconds.
The 4-4-6 breath.
Yeah. And it also says to practice this 3 times a day. So it's not just for emergencies. It's like regular maintenance.
That's a great way to put it. Regular maintenance for your nervous system.
Yeah.
What's key here is that specific, deliberate rhythm. It's not just taking a random deep breath. That 4-4-6 pattern directly signals your body's parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest system you mentioned.
That's the one. When you breathe slowly and intentionally like this, especially with a longer exhale, you're telling your body via the vagus nerve, basically, it's okay. You can calm down now. So when the source says breathing deeply tells your body you are safe, you can relax. That's not just poetic language. It's physiologically accurate.
Wow. Okay. So it's like a direct command to your own body chemistry.
Pretty much, yes. You're actively shifting gears from that fight or flight state to rest and digest.
So if I'm, say, feeling anxious before a call or maybe getting worked up about something, I can use this specific 4-4-6 breath as a tool right there in the moment.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it. It's instantly accessible. Before a meeting, during a tough conversation, stuck in traffic, wherever. You can consciously use this technique to downshift. You're creating a little pause, a moment of calm, interrupting that automatic stress reaction. It gives you space to respond more clearly.
That's incredibly useful. Okay, habit number 2, write your thoughts. The source suggests grabbing a notebook and just writing down how you feel. It gives examples like, I feel tired because I have too much work, or I'm worried about my family, simple stuff. But then it says something really interesting. When you write, your brain feels more clear. You don't need to fix everything, just write. That don't need to fix everything part stands out. So what's happening in our brains when we do this? How does it bring clarity?
It's really about getting the thoughts out of your head. Our minds can often get stuck in these loops, right? Ruminating, worrying.
Oh yeah, the hamster wheel.
Exactly. When you take those swirling thoughts and put them down on paper, you externalize them, you create a bit of distance, you can almost look at your thoughts instead of being completely caught in them.
So it's like untangling a knotted mess, laying it out where you can see it.
That's a perfect analogy. The act of writing forces some structure onto what might feel like chaos in your head. And crucially, like the source says, you don't need to have the answers right away. The therapeutic part is the process itself, getting it out.
Just the act of writing is the release.
Yes. It reduces that mental clutter, that internal noise. Your brain feels more clear because it's not juggling all those unexpressed worries anymore. It frees up cognitive space, essentially, allows for a bit more peace.
Makes sense. Okay, habit 3, move your body. We all kind of know exercise is good, but the source emphasizes that you don't need anything intense. It says just walk, stretch, or dance. Simple things. Walk for 10 minutes, do 5 stretches, even just moving your shoulders and neck.
Keeping it accessible.
Yeah. And the core idea is movement helps release stress. Even small movement helps. So how does that work? How does even a short walk or a few stretches actually release stress? What's the mechanism?
Well, think back to that fight or flight response again. Stress primes your body for physical action. You get that rush of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
Right, preparing to run or fight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Physical movement, even gentle movement, helps to metabolize those hormones.
Right.
It helps complete that physiological cycle. It's like burning off the stress fuel.
Okay, so we're giving our body the physical release it was gearing up for, but in a healthy way.
Precisely. Plus, movement also stimulates endorphins, those natural mood boosters, and it helps regulate neurotransmitters involved in mood, like serotonin.
So it works on multiple levels then. Hormones, mood chemicals.
Yes. And the beauty of the examples for a 10-minute walk, a few stretches, is that they are so achievable. You don't need a gym membership or loads of time. You can build these little movement snacks into your day.
Movement snacks, I like that. Like stretch while the kettle boils.
Exactly. Or pace while you're on a phone call. These small bits really do add up and help manage both physical tension and mental fatigue throughout the day.
Cool. Okay, habit 4. This one will hit home for many, I suspect. Take a break from screens. The source describes it perfectly. Your phone, your computer, they never stop. Too many messages, videos, notifications. It's relentless.
It really is constant bombardment.
And the suggestion is simple. Take 15 minutes with no phone. Just sit quietly, look outside, listen to sounds, breathe. The payoff. Your mind will feel more calm. So why are screens so stressful? And what does stepping away actually do for our brains?
Well, our brains simply aren't wired for that constant high-speed stream of information and alerts. The endless notifications, the scrolling, the pressure to respond instantly, it keeps us in a state of hypervigilance. Information overload.
Right, your attention is just pulled everywhere at once.
Exactly. It leads to mental fatigue, irritability, difficulty focusing, and stress. We get this thing called attention residue, where part of your brain is still thinking about the last email, even as you try to do something else.
It sounds exhausting just describing it.
It is exhausting for our brains. So when you deliberately take a break, even just for 15 minutes, you're giving your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, planning part of your brain, a much-needed rest.
A mental breather.
Yes, it allows your mind to decompress, to get out of that reactive mode. And the suggestion to look outside, listen to sounds, breathe, that's basically mindfulness.
Bringing yourself back to the present moment, to your senses.
Exactly. You're shifting focus from the demanding digital world to your immediate physical environment. It disengages you from the constant input, allows the mental noise to settle down. It's like hitting a reset button for your attention.
A cognitive reset. I need one of those daily. Okay, habit 5. Listen to calming music or nature sounds. The source says music can help change your emotions and suggests things like slow piano music, rain sounds, ocean waves. The action is just close your eyes and listen. Let the music relax you. Seems simple enough, but how does sound actually shift our mood or physiology?
It's fascinating, actually. Our auditory system has a direct line to the emotional centers of our brain. Certain types of sounds, like slow, predictable rhythms, harmonious tones found in slow piano music, or the consistency of nature sounds can physically slow our heart rate and change our brainwave patterns.
Really? So it's not just that I like the sound of rain, it's actually doing something to my brainwaves.
Potentially, yes. It can shift you from that alert, busy beta state towards calmer alpha, or even theta states, which are associated with relaxation. Nature sounds, like rain or waves, often contain what's called pink noise.
Pink noise, not white noise.
Similar, but pink noise has a slightly different frequency balance that many people find more soothing, more natural sounding. It's good at masking distracting background noises without being harsh itself.
Interesting.
So when you close your eyes and just listen, you're creating this immersive sound environment. It bypasses some of the analytical thinking and directly influences your nervous system, helping to reduce arousal and promote relaxation.
Like creating a little bubble of calm with sound.
Precisely. A sensory cocoon.
Okay, habit 6. Get natural light. The source is very direct. Sunlight is important for your mood. And the habit is incredibly simple. Each morning, open a window, sit in the sunlight for 5 minutes.
Can't get much simpler than that.
Right, and the benefit. Sunlight helps your brain feel happy and balanced. What's the science behind that? Why does sunlight affect our mood?
It's absolutely fundamental to our biology, even though we often forget it living indoors so much. Natural light, especially morning sunlight, is the primary cue for regulating our circadian rhythms.
Our internal body clock.
Exactly. That clock controls sleep-wake cycles, hormone production, and yes, mood. Morning light tells your brain, hey, it's daytime. This helps suppress melatonin, the sleep hormone, and crucially, it helps boost serotonin production.
And serotonin is linked to feeling good, right? Happy and balanced.
That's right. It plays a huge role in mood regulation. So if you're not getting enough natural light, especially in the morning, that internal clock can get thrown off. That can lead to feeling sluggish, low mood, even things like seasonal affective disorder or SAD in some people.
Wow. So that simple act of opening a window and sitting in the sun for 5 minutes is actually helping to reset your whole system for the day.
It really is. It's synchronizing your internal clock, boosting those mood-related chemicals. It's a tiny investment for potentially a big payoff in how you feel all day.
Makes total sense. Okay, habit 7. This one tackles that feeling of being overwhelmed. Make a simple daily plan. The source says stress comes from feeling out of control, which feels very true.
The sense of powerlessness.
And the proposed solution is really specific. Each morning, write down 3 things you want to do today. Only 3. Not a massive list, just 3. Examples are like wash the dishes, study English for 10 minutes, go for a walk. Small, achievable things.
Yeah, the constraint is key.
Right. And the result, when you finish them, you feel strong and proud. So why just 3? And how does that fight the overwhelm?
It's psychologically very clever. When we feel overwhelmed, it's often because the list of shoulds and have-tos in our head feels infinite and vague. Limiting it to just 3 concrete things makes it instantly feel manageable, finite, defined.
It breaks it down from this huge, scary cloud into like 3 specific steps.
Exactly. You're shifting focus from everything to these 3 things. And importantly, each time you tick one off, no matter how small, you get a little dopamine hit, a sense of accomplishment.
The brain's reward system kicks in.
Yes. It builds momentum. It proves to yourself, okay, I can get things done. I do have some control. That feeling of being strong and proud isn't trivial. It directly counteracts the feeling of helplessness that fuels stress. It builds self-efficacy, that belief in your ability to succeed.
So you're building confidence with these small wins, which makes bigger tasks seem less daunting later.
Precisely. It cultivates a sense of agency, one small, achievable step at a time.
Love it. Okay, final habit, number 8. Talk to someone. The source says don't keep everything inside and suggests talking to a friend, a family member, or even a professional.
Reaching out.
Yeah. And the core idea is really powerful. Just saying, I feel stressed is already a step forward. You are not alone.
Why is simply saying it out loud so helpful, even if the other person doesn't fix anything? Because bottling things up often makes them feel bigger, more distorted inside our own heads. It's like that pressure cooker analogy, the steam needs to be released. Verbalizing, I feel stressed, is that first release. It externalizes the feeling, gives it shape, makes it less overwhelming.
It makes it concrete, maybe. Less like a vague, scary monster in your head.
Exactly. You start to create a narrative around it, which is the first step to gaining perspective. And then there's the connection aspect. Stress can be incredibly isolating. You feel like you're the only one struggling this much.
Yeah, that you are not alone part is huge.
It really is. Sharing your experience, even just naming it, connects you to others. It reminds you that this is a shared human experience. It reduces shame. And the other person might offer empathy, validation, maybe a different perspective, or just simply listen without judgment. All of those are incredibly valuable for our emotional well-being.
So it's about the release, the connection, and just feeling heard.
Absolutely. It normalizes seeking support. It's an act of bravery, really, not weakness, a courageous act of self-care.
Wow. Okay, so that's 8 really distinct but kind of interconnected habits. Deep breathing, writing, moving, screen breaks, calming sounds, sunlight, simple planning, and talking to someone. That's a lot of good stuff.
It is a whole toolkit.
Yeah. And you know, when you hear all this great advice, sometimes the urge to think, okay, I'm going to do all of these things starting tomorrow.
Knuckles, the all or nothing approach.
Exactly. But our source material has some really important wisdom for us in the next part called One Habit at a Time. It says very clearly, you don't need to do all of them today. Just choose one. Start small. It even says, tomorrow, try another. So why is that start small, choose one approach so crucial for actually making these changes stick?
It really taps into how habit formation actually works for us humans.
Yeah.
Trying to change everything at once is usually a recipe for feeling overwhelmed and then giving up entirely.
Right. You set the bar too high, fail, and then think, see, I can't do it.
Exactly. Our willpower, our capacity for change, it's like a muscle. It can get fatigued. When you pick just one small, manageable habit, you set yourself up for success. You achieve it, you feel good, you build confidence.
Like we were saying with the 3 tasks, those small wins build momentum.
Precisely. You're strengthening that change muscle gradually. Each small success makes the next step feel less daunting. It creates a positive upward spiral instead of that downward spiral of overwhelm and failure.
So it's about being realistic and building sustainable change, not aiming for instant perfection.
Absolutely. The goal isn't perfection tomorrow. It's gradual, sustainable improvement over time. And that leads to another really important point the source makes about patience and kindness towards ourselves.
Ah, yes, that part really resonated.
It says, stress will not disappear in one day, but with time and small steps, you can feel better. Be patient with yourself, be kind, you are doing your best, and that is enough.
That is enough. That's such a powerful message.
It really is. It's about self-compassion, understanding that this is a journey, not a quick fix. There will be days when it's easier and days when it's harder. The key is consistency, even if it's imperfect consistency, and just being kind to yourself through the process. Celebrating the small steps, not beating yourself up if you miss a day.
It takes the pressure off, doesn't it? Knowing that just trying, doing your best is okay. It's enough.
It really does. It allows for sustainable progress rather than burnout.
Okay. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, we've covered a lot, from understanding stress, that good and bad kind, to these 8 really practical, accessible habits. We hope that you listening feel a bit more informed, maybe a bit more empowered now. We've seen how simple things, breathing, writing, moving, sunlight, planning, connecting, how these can really shift things internally.
Shifting your experience of daily life.
Yeah, it's not about eliminating stress entirely, because let's face it, life throws things at us.
That's unrealistic, yeah.
But it is about building this internal toolkit, this resilience, so we can navigate those pressures with a bit more calm, a bit more clarity.
Exactly. Understanding stress is that first step. We said that. But the real change happens when you consistently apply these small actions. Your well-being, it's an ongoing conversation you have with yourself, and you always have the power to take another step, however small.
I like that, an ongoing conversation. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening as you go on with your day today, or maybe this week. Just pause for a moment and consider, what's the single smallest step you could take today? Just one thing from our list, maybe, to bring a little more calm into your life. Could it be 5 minutes of sunlight, 3 deep breaths before your next meeting?
Or maybe just writing down 3 small things you want to achieve.
Yeah. And also, how can you practice that kindness toward yourself that we talked about, especially when things feel tough?
Remember that message. You are doing your best, and that is enough.
We really encourage you to maybe think about these ideas, perhaps even share one tip that stood out to you with someone else. Let the deep dive continue for you.
Because ultimately, when we build these habits for ourselves, when we find more internal balance, it doesn't just benefit us. We tend to show up better for the people around us too. More grounded, more resilient.
That's a wonderful point. It ripples outwards. Well, Thank you so much for diving deep with us today. It's been a really insightful conversation.
Agreed. Always good to unpack these things.
We really appreciate you joining us. We'll be back again soon with another set of sources and another deep dive into something interesting. Until then, stay curious, try to stay present, and definitely be kind to yourselves.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.